You guys have been watching me fight Clan Boss for a while now on the channel, and I've been struggling through it. So I've been looking through the comments and getting a lot of your suggestions, and some of those were to hook up with a good friend of mine, Deadwood Jedi, who's an expert on this exact mechanic inside of the game. So I have him here today to help give me some guidance to better my Clan Boss experience, for more rewards, for a better, stronger team that today we're gonna put together an idea of, and then over the next couple of weeks, I'll build it out, put together his dream team with the champions that I have, and then we'll see how it all works in a video in a couple of weeks. So Deadwood Jedi, my man, I'm so happy to have you in the channel. Thanks for coming through, and thanks for the help here today, man.
Of course, brother, of course. One, I love doing this anyway, just for on my own time. And two, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. So I'm really glad we were able to actually connect here on the YouTube. So this should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about this.
I am as well. Well, let me fill you in a little bit on what's going on here. And by the way, if you don't know Deadwood Jedi, he's on YouTube, Deadwood Jedi, and he has a website that has all this stuff on it as well. Tools, calculators, so that you can build out your Clan Boss team for yourself. And if you've never played Raid, if you're brand new, and if you're looking forward to an experience here that you may enjoy, consider using my QR code or my link in the description to download the game. You get Rector Drath, who's going to help keep you alive in the beginning of the game, which is an important thing when you're a new player. So use the code.
Such a good champion.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Use the code, guys.
Thank you, dude. You backed me up there. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right.
Of course.
So let me fill you in really quickly on what we're doing here with the team. We have essentially what I felt as a damage dealing team, one that could try and stay alive, having Ursula with revive and having Apothecary with healing. We have our burn, we have Rathalos, that's kind of a big damage dealer, and Kale, who throws a lot of poison. But I know that you have some different ideas that we can do here to even better the experience. Now, keep in mind, my account, if we take a look, it's one of the accounts where I have what I have. I've been really focused on really 6 to 7 champions. I have Tyrant, Rathalos, Armanz, Ursula, Geo, and Kale. They're pretty much, you know, not fully maxed, not fully mastered besides Kale, but they're in the best position. We just unlocked Bad L recently, and then sitting at 50, we have players like Haikatoon, War Maiden, Apothecary, and Armiger. I know that I have a lot of other champions that could be useful, and curious to see what you have to say. You know why I'm getting so many words in right now? Do you know?
Because I'm gonna use them all in a second.
Because you're gonna take over. I'm getting everything I can get in right now, man, and I know I'm handing over the video to you. So let me go back to the Clan Boss, so you could kind of take another peek at what I'm working with here and what I'm doing, and then I want to hear your ideas on how we can make this better.
All right. So wait, what's the damage that you're doing right about now? What's the difficulty that you're approaching regularly these days?
Good point. Good point there I didn't mention. I'm doing Nightmare twice in a day, and in doing it twice, I'm getting myself to the Master Chest, which is subpar. So I range, and it's a wide range. I range between 4 million damage and 8 million damage, and I'm not sure why the range is that big, but that is definitely the range. And then I'll use, if I get the chance, if I remember, I'll come do some of these easier ones so I can just get extra reward chests. But the goal, I mean, everyone's goal is Ultra Nightmare, getting all to the Transcendent chest to get the most rewards possible. And I wanna put the framework together so that I have the best chance of getting there after building out the champions that are gonna be part of that team.
Absolutely. I think it's great. I'm so happy to be here, honestly. And looking at your account, it seems like you're post 60 days in, probably 70, 80 days in, I would imagine.
Dude, I'm 120 days in. I'm 120
days in. Never mind. All right, so if you're a veteran player of the game, you know this already. If you aren't, then pay attention. This is the most important thing you're going to know about focusing on Raid. The number one thing that you guys need to do is Clan Boss. It goes without saying, because the best rewards are in Clan Boss. Do you guys struggle with fusions? I guarantee the hardest part, it's not the Dungeon Divers, not the Champion Chase. It's the Summons Rush. It's the Champion Chase events, especially if you're a free-to-play player, and there's nowhere you're going to get more shards than from Clan Boss. Are you struggling booking your champions? Clan Boss is where you get your book. So it is crucial to be able to succeed at this part of the game. I would say we're a little bit behind as far as like optimizing our growth on this account, right?
Mhm.
One of the things that you want to do, I think, after about 60 days in, is you really want to start focusing on clan boss. That said, your account, have fun with it, do whatever you want to do, right? Like, no, don't let anybody else tell you how to eat your sandwich. So, it's fine that we're where we are, but yeah, it definitely it's time to start working on it, improving it, trying to build it up. So one of the things I think we want to look at today is not just I think we want to look at how to build your team and how to build it better. But part of that is understanding where your account is, right? We can't just go, okay, we're going to take these 5 champions, we're going to put this great gear on them, and it's going to be Ultra Nightmare 2 key, no time, right?
Right.
It's like we understand that the account is still growing, and that's a good thing. One of the best parts about Clan Boss is actually improving your team over time. It's fun. It's enjoyable to be like, how do I problem solve this? How do I get it better? And so we want to take that into a bit of account right now. Now, one of the biggest things when you're building your team, right? One of the things we should understand is like where it is versus difficulty. When you're doing brutal clan boss or lower, basically all you need are 5 champions that have a semblance of a clan boss team. We'll talk about like some of the things you want, but have that semblance and are level 60. So they all have a War Master or Giant Slayer mastery on them, the tier 6 mastery and the attack tree. Like you have to have that on all 5 of your champions. And if you do that, you should be able to 2-key brutal pretty flawlessly, right? Without speed tuning, without doing anything super fancy, as long as you're building them basically how you should, right? Obviously there's some variance there, but brutal, you can kind of brute force it. Once you get to Nightmare and you get to Ultra Nightmare, the clan boss starts hitting harder. And this is where you really want to start speed tuning your team. And what we mean by speed tuning is making sure that your skills happen when you want them to happen, that the clan boss skills are happening and you're prepared for it every time. So it's just making sure you understand when your skills are happening in relation to the clan bosses every single turn as you go through. If you can do that, you've now speed tuned your team. And when you do that, you increase your survivability, you can increase your damage, you can maximize your damage possibilities on your team. And so like that's the spot that we're at.
Right.
Now, when we're building a team, when we get to it, right, the first thing we have to figure out is what style of team we want to do. And in my opinion, there's basically like, it all comes down to one very simple thing, right? The whole point is to do as much damage as possible. Mm-hmm. And so what we all understand is the more attacks you have, the more damage you're going to do. So when you're checking out the style of your team, understanding your champions, what's going to benefit them, we just want to figure out how are we getting more attacks in. And there's two real basic things when it comes to speed tuning as far as getting more attacks, right? The first one is going faster. And by that, we mean going at like a faster ratio. So if we can take 2 attacks for every 1 attack the clan boss has, it's going to double our attacks. It's going to double your damage basically very easily. That's one of the best ways to increase your damage, and it's one of the ways that we get to really high damage numbers in this game, especially against Ultra Nightmare. But it takes a lot of speed to do that, and to get a lot of speed, you need a lot of gear. And then on top of that, if you're trying to survive, that makes it a lot harder, right? This is something that's a lot easier with like unkillable team, but like your account, not everybody has available to them. That's okay. You don't need it. But so when we're trying to figure out what's the best approach, sometimes going really fast is one of the approaches. For your team, because I'm assuming your gear probably isn't at the space where we can get, multiple champions over 220, 240 speed, right? Consistently with defense, with HP, with damage. Like probably the gear requirement's a little bit high right now. Because of that, one of the great ways to go, and a standard way to go that will definitely get you through Nightmare, probably get you in through Ultra Nightmare. Good key on moving me over a little bit. Mm-hmm. Is going to be building a what we call like a traditional team or a sustained team. Basically, the idea is instead of taking more attacks in the time that we're alive before we die, making sure that we don't die. So we're trying to be as survivable as possible. We're building a survivability style team. So, we're trying to look for buffs and things that are going to keep us alive, like ally protection, increased defense, strengthen. Those 3 are especially key. We need healing in the team, right? So we want to make sure we're building defense and HP in our champions so that they aren't being crushed with the first attack the clan boss does. With those teams, the idea is that we last so long that we're building up more attacks by surviving longer. Now, of course, outside of those two main parameters, right, the survivability, or like what we like sometimes call a traditional team, and speed team, right? Between those two barriers, we obviously can bring in champions that are going to help us get more attacks too, right? So things like ally attack, right? Super strong abilities. So champs like Brock and the Fat, or Kreela, or Longbeard, Cardiel, excuse me. But ally attack is super powerful, right? It's literally just more attacks. It can be a huge damage boost for your account. The other way to go about doing that, another way, is having counterattack. So if you get a Skull Crusher, a Valkyrie, a Martyr, there's a huge damage boost for your team and can be extremely, extremely beneficial. But you don't need those. It's just those are great additions if we can get it. Now, like we were talking about before, trying to figure out what kind of team you're going to build. Now, if we wanted to do a speed team, you need 2 speed champions. So, you have Haikutun, you have Apothecary. If you wanted to bring them both in, we could do that and build a speed team. But again, we're talking about needing champions like in the 240, 220, 260 speed range. I don't think you quite have that, nor do I feel like you would survive a very long time with that type of a team. So I don't know that the benefit is there for you. And so that's not something I'm inclined to push you towards.
Okay.
On the other hand, you have some amazing champions for a survivability team. Namely, you have Tyrant, who brings ally protection, as well as increased defense. And those are 2 incredibly strong buffs for your team that will help you survive a lot longer. Really good champion to bring in for that.
Beautiful.
You have champions like Battle Khazar, Geomancer. Geomancer has some damage reduction passive in his kit. Battle Khazar brings healing for your team. You have, I think, good options for a survivability team. And that's probably the way I would want to have you go. Now, you don't have to, you don't have to, you can survive and go fast, right? But like we talked about, you don't quite have the gear for that.
Right.
So what we want to try to figure out, first thing we figured out the style of team, right? Understanding the champions that you have available to you. Let's figure out what style is going to be better. I think a pretty traditional 1-1 ratio, like a nice slow and steady style team is going to be your best bet. And then we want to try to figure out how do we build that team and how do we optimize that team for you as best we can. Now, one concern is always going to be books. And with, especially cooldowns is always an issue. Getting Tyrant's A3, his ally protection ability, to a 3-turn cooldown is going to be really important. Getting Battle Khazar's cleanse, right? His A2, his cleanse, and his poisons down to a 3-turn cooldown. That's going to be really important, right? These are things that maybe we don't use them right away until we get them booked, or until we get them leveled up and ranked up and stuff like that. We kind of have to play around with that. But this is where I would talk about where we want to go. What's our objective with these champions? What's our long-term strategy going to be here? In addition to what we might want to do short-term, right? So, if we start off with Tyrant as our pillar because he's bringing so much protection, then we also need to make sure that we are bringing in something really valuable, which is going to be that decreased attack. And when we talk about which champions we want to bring, it's really more about like what skills are we trying to bring to the table, right?
Sure.
So decreased attack, you absolutely need. It's going to lessen the damage from the clan boss by half. Like, that's huge. So you definitely want that. You also probably want decreased defense. You probably want weaken. These are things that are going to make our War Master and Giant Slayer procs actually do more damage. So we're going to get a lot more damage out of having those on the team. In addition to that, obviously, we got to figure out what style of damage are we doing. Are we doing damage over time with poisons and HP burns and stuff? Or are we going to do raw damage just by hitting hard? Early on, damage over time is a lot easier to do because it's a lot easier to build accuracy than it is to build crit rate and crit damage and try to survive. And so that's kind of the basis of like, what are we looking for? We really want to make sure we get those important debuffs: decrease attack, decrease defense specifically. Weaken is a nice one as well. And then we also want to make sure that, if we're doing damage over time, we want to find some poison champions, some HP burn champions to help us with that as well. And so that's the foundation. That's the start of it. And then we start talking about which champions we're going to choose for that.
Yeah, it sounds super simple and not confusing at all. Don't worry.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
No.
I mean, if we break it down, it is simple. It's like, get more attacks in. Do we do that by going fast, or do we do that by surviving? We've already said we're going to survive.
Survivability.
Cool. Let's build it tanky. And then what are we bringing in? We just need to make sure that we're getting key debuffs, decreased attack, decreased defense. Those are the two biggest ones. We need to make sure we have key buffs, ally protection, increased defense. We're bringing those with Tyrant by himself. So more champions that can do more things, generally going to help us for this. It's just like building that coalition of a team. And and you have a really good foundation already. Right? You've got Kale that brings in those poisons. You've got Tyrant brings HP burn. That's your damage over time. Right. You've got Rathalos for raw damage. You've got increased defense. You have good foundations right now. But I think looking forward, we can do a little bit better job of that. We can really, try to optimize it just a little bit more to get a little bit more out of it.
Yeah, and that's perfect. And even if we leave here today, which is probably what's going to happen with me having the foundation of the team, the idea of the champions that we're going to use, put them in place, I'll make a team and I'll work on building them up. Because to be honest, the way that I play the game, it's very difficult. And the way that a lot of people play the game, it's very difficult to book legendary champions. So for my focus lately has been Rathalos. I've been trying to get his skills up and I've been prioritizing that, and they've been landing in all the wrong places. So it just takes longer. But that's what's keeping me from booking Tyrant or, even now, Bad L. So it's going to be a time play, and I could take advantage of events, maybe pick up some things in the shop if I want to get there. But I can't book even everyone says Armand's the best new champion. There's a lot of books that this guy needs, for me to be successful. And he's not even going to be part of the team that we're building now. So
that's true. He's an arena specialist there. It's going to be hard to use him for anything else. Yeah.
So having the guide here, and I know you got to take a look at some of my champions. You have some ideas of what you want to build. I think that's beneficial both for me as a player and for everyone that's watching. That is like, how the heck do I do this? You have already broken down what type of a team. Is it going to be a damage over time, speed, or what is it? What's undead? What is it? The one unkillable.
Are we surviving? Unkillable. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's important. That's one of the things, like, remind me if I forget to mention it, but like, we should talk about, what are your priorities as far as like, are we, there's two aspects to it. There's the, once I get everything, how does this team look? Which I think is important to have. You need those goals. You want that focus of like, hey, this is the thing I need to do. But also, what are we doing right now? Like, what's the immediate thing that we can do? How do I make sure this team works for the right now? I would say obviously for the next week or two, you're probably just going to be using the same team you have been, right? Because I don't know that we're going to have any miracle changes here. One of the things that we'll probably focus on, I would say, in the short term is how you're gearing your champions, right? I think that's going to be really important. Understanding that, like, if we're not super focused on speed tuning early on, right? Because like we still are going to need some champions to bring in. One of the things we can talk about this right now is like, one of the more important things is how we're gearing our champions, right? So like, if you actually show me Tyrant's gear right here, right? So the speed 167, again, remember we talk more attacks equals more damage, right? So generally we're going to want to be faster is better. If we're speed tuning, that's when, this is kind of a good speed for Tyrant, generally speed tuning wise, right? And right in that like 170 range or 170s. In that kind of a range is probably going to be where we're going to want him eventually. So right now it's good. One of the things we want to look at is like, how are we building him, right? Tyrant's a defensive champion, so obviously defense is one of the more important skills. He's an HP champion, right? So HP is one of the more important skills, but defense helps with survivability. I like how you built him. You got accuracy to land his burns. You've got some defense on there. Maybe you could use a little bit more, but I think pretty good for where we're at right now. Got a lot of HP, which is great for an ally protection champion. This is exactly the style of build that we want to have here with him, right? Focusing on his main stats. Yeah, obviously we can go in piece by piece, right? Like you have 4-star boots. Obviously 5-star speed boots would be perfect for us, but like we'll take the 4-star. It's fine. We're getting where we need to. Is that a 4-star chest piece? 4-star gloves?
Yep.
We're at the point where you want to start prioritizing 5-star and 6-star pieces, because that is those are going to be good for a long time.
Gotcha.
4-star pieces, you're probably already starting to
outgrow.
You're probably already starting to outgrow it. 4-star pieces outgrow really quickly. So like those are simple changes, right? But like, I'm sure you have HP, and defense percentage on those pieces, right? Exactly like we're going to want to have there. And that's exactly how you'd want to build that. Then when we start talking about, well, let's look at Geomancer, right? This is somebody I think you're going to want to be able to use. And this is one change I would do immediately with your clan boss team, is bring Geomancer in. And it's probably going to double your damage. Like just that one change will almost double your damage immediately, because his damage is based off of passive abilities. The more damage your team takes, the more damage the clan boss takes, which is a great way to get damage out there, right?
Right.
And again, you can see already, right? We have that 4-star chest piece, those 4-star boots. Like moving that stuff into 5-star is going to just help a lot. But I love what you've done here. You've got decent speed, right? Again, 169 speed, I think it is. Right around that threshold where I always try to get my teams around 170 is kind of a minimum. You've got good accuracy, so he's landing his debuffs. The HP is a little low. The defense is a little low, so I would love to build the survivability up a little bit on him. And if we can do that, I think you're gonna find you're gonna, be in a little bit better shape. But in general, the concept of your build here is right on point. And that's what we're trying to do with our champions. So if we give you like some base stats to kind of aim for, one of the things that we really would love to aim for is about 3,000 defense on all of our champions. With an increased defense buff, it's a really strong number, especially for Ultra Nightmare. Defense is a sliding scale. So I think, when you have like 3,000 defense, you mitigate about 75% of the damage. And you have, 4,800 defense, you mitigate about 85% or 87% of the damage. So past that, it's not really helpful. But here's the thing. 3,000 defense with a 60% increased defense buff gets you about 4,800 defense, right? Gotcha. Which is really what we want to have. So like that's why use that like 3,000 defense is kind of a good benchmark. Sometimes, especially for Nightmare, you can lower that number. So you could say like maybe 2,500 defense is a pretty solid spot to go, even with that increased defense buff. But like if we can get to there, and you can see we're a little bit shy with that with Geomancer, that'll help a lot. If you use a Stalwart set, which is one of my favorite sets for Clan Boss, I generally equate that to about the amount of damage it mitigates is about 500 defense worth. Is usually how I look at it. So that's one of the things where, like, especially with a damage dealer, Stalwart could be a really good option. So you can build them still with attack, but with something that's helping to mitigate some of that damage, right? So that might be something to look at in the future.
So you like a 4-piece set of Stalwart?
I do. Obviously, what's a priority, right? The priority's got to be speed, and it's got to be, your accuracy, right? You need those things for sure. But outside of that, if you can make those numbers, those key, cutoff numbers, so Stalwart's great. It mitigates 30% of the damage. Like, it's a huge damage reduction. So it can really help you survive a lot, and can be a really great way to kind of like to help, just build, especially somebody that you want to build with attack, right? Because if you're building attack, it's hard to build defense on top of that, hard to build HP on top of that. So having Stalwart for somebody like Rathalos or Geomancer can be a nice way to kind of go about doing that.
What I've been doing so far, because of the gear, I guess I could say holdbacks that we've had, is I've been going stats over sets. Do you think that I should at this point be starting to focus a little bit more on hitting, putting some sets together to get those extra buffs, regardless of clan boss or wherever it is? Like, when do you start making that switch?
It depends, really. I mean, it kind of depends on like what you're trying to do and what content you're aiming for. So like with something like Clan Boss, because so often we actually speed tune our teams, right? Which is something I would want you to get to. What I would want for your champions is eventually all of them to be somewhere between 171 speed and 178 speed. Kind of what I want for your team. By doing that, what's going to happen is for both Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare, you're going to have a very set team order so that you can make sure your champions all go at the right time. So whether you want to cleanse debuffs at a certain time, whether you want to put buffs up at a certain time, you'll be able to do that. I think that's ultimately where you go. Now, obviously, you get more complex with it, right? More turn cooldowns are going to necessitate a little bit of change and stuff like that. And we can always talk about, I can send you some links. This is where you go to my website. You go to deadwithjedi.com, you find the team that you want, and then you go, oh, okay, I got this guy on a 4-turn cooldown. Perfect. This will work out great.
Exactly.
But I think as a starting point, though, get them all in that kind of speed range, and then you can start to see how the turn order works, and it's gonna, and that's a solid speed to use in other content like dungeon runs and stuff like that. And so because we have a set speed, it's a lot easier to put a set on top of that, right? It's a lot easier to shoehorn a stalwart set into that. So for your clan boss team, that might be something worth doing, right? You know, when you go, okay, I want Geo at like 175-ish speed. I don't really want him faster than that because it's going to mess things up. I don't really want him slower than that because it's going to mess things up. Can I build the stats I need with a stalwart set at that speed? If so, that's going to be worth doing. If not, then I'm not going to worry about it, right? Then, like you said, stats over sets. But, you know, one of the things is Geomancer's not Rathalos, right? He's not a max damage dealer, right? Rathalos is going to slap. So obviously stats over sets for him because we just want to do as much damage as possible, especially probably using him for arena. With Geomancer, it's more about his kit. It's more about the skills and the debuffs and the buffs that he's bringing, right? And so for champions like Geo, for Tyrant, for Battle Khazar, champions where you're really relying more on the skill set rather than the raw damage, you're gonna get more benefit out of sets, right? So there's things like, you know, Reflex set is so good because it's reducing those cooldowns. When you need somebody to when you need Battle Khazar to put up poisons and, you know, put up healing over and over and over again, a Reflex set can be really, really valuable. Not so much for Clan Boss, but for other content, right?
Right.
You know, for Geomancer, if our whole thing is like we need him to survive as long as possible so that HP burn is up, then we're looking, well, maybe a lifesteal set, maybe a stalwart set is beneficial for him. I can sacrifice his raw damage because it's not as big a sacrifice as it would be for Rathalos or somebody of his ilk. So I'm going to focus more on making sure that we have the action, we have the survivability. If I can do that with a set like Stalwart, that's great. That fits that profile. And so that for me is how I'd look. Like Tyrant, I think is somebody that if you can, we would love to see a good lifesteal set on him because he's going to take more damage because of the ally protection. So putting him in a lifesteal set or a stalwart set works really nice on an ally protection champion, but somewhere where he's either going to have the opportunity to heal himself back up or mitigate the damage he takes will be a really massive boon to keeping him alive, which means that'll help keep the rest of your team alive, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I start to move.
Now that makes total sense because he's taking damage every time that a champion on his team is taking damage. So if he could heal himself up a little bit every time he attacks, good value there. All right, cool.
Yeah. You don't want to sacrifice. It's not like you don't want to have a big sacrifice, but if you're comparing if you're going like, do I want a Gala apple or a Granny Smith apple? Yeah, go with the set. Right, but if you're talking about do I want an apple or an orange, that's where you go with the stats because like you have to hit certain benchmarks. You need to be able to do certain things.
No, that makes total sense. I love that. All right, so as we mentioned before, this is the team I'm running with. But Deadwood, I want to kind of know who do you want to pull out of this team and who's going to be replacing them. I get the idea from everything that you just said that Tyrant's going to have a spot in this team. You seem to really like him in here.
Yeah.
So
he's very good.
Right. I assume he's staying. But who do you see leaving? And then I want to see who you're going to replace them with. We'll go and we'll look at kits and all that to see why. But who are the initial ones that you say got to get taken off the team?
Yeah. So first off, like I said before, I think this is a very solid build, right? Early on and for your team, right? You're getting extra speed and healing from Apothecary. You're getting protection and even revivals, which is good from what's her name up there at the top? Ursula, thank you.
You're welcome.
She also brings a decreased attack, which is super important. Then you got Kale, obviously bringing that damage over time with the poisons, not to mention raw damage between him and Rathalos. Rathalos brings you decreased defense. Like you do have all the pieces that we talked about, or that we're going to talk about here as far as what we want to do. Now the question becomes, how do we optimize that? How do we make that the best pieces possible, right? From the options that we have. One of the things that we want to look at, I think that's really important, is that generally the best teams are going to have champions that bring multiple stuff to the table. Right. So, the fact that right now all those champions bring multiple things is a really good sign, right? You're not just getting speed from Apothecary, you're getting speed and healing. You're not just getting, decreased attack from Ursula. You're also getting protection from the increased defense and the strengthened buff, right? You're also getting revival from, this is, I think, really important to be able to have multiple things with your champions. The cool part is you have some really good options at your disposal right now with the rest of your team, and so I feel like we can fill in some of those roles a little better. The three that I'm looking to replace right off the jump are going to be Ursula, primarily because one of her skills is on a 5-turn cooldown, and that's really hard to have up consistently, and I feel like we can probably do better.
Okay.
Apothecary, because I don't think that, I think you're going to benefit more from having a reliable speed tune rather than just going haphazardly fast. And to go at a reliable fast speed, you're going to need 2 speed champions, and I don't like that for this team right here, right now.
Fair.
So that's one of the things. That's not to say that you can't do some fun stuff, right? And it's not to say you can't build towards that. This is what the website's for. Come by, check it out. I'm just throwing in the plugs.
I don't mind
the
it.
whole point is like, you just want to make sure that you're having that consistency, and that's going to help you continue to improve your team over time, right? Because we also want to understand where the account is. We talked about this. You're early. We want to build it up, and we need to have that understanding of what needs to be built up. And so, like, I think starting off with a nice simple speed tune, it's going to be the best way for this particular account because of the champions you have.
Love it.
And so Apothecary I want to take out, and then you have both Kale and you have Rathalos. Those are 2 damage dealers. I don't know that we're going to want to use those 2 as damage dealers. We might, but I think there's other potential champions to be able to use.
Okay.
And so we want to examine that. So it's, when it comes to damage dealers, sometimes a little bit of a, try a few out, see what works and what doesn't, what does better, what doesn't. But I think right now you might benefit more from having them prep for other areas of the game, and we can have specific clan boss champions. You can build them for clan boss and build them a little bit more for that without having to worry about how they impact your other teams and your other builds. So those are the 4 I'm probably gonna take out. Rathalos might stay. I think there's a more likelihood of that than Kale, but we'll kind of see as we kind of build it in here.
All right. So as you completely shred my team apart to pieces,
absolutely.
It is you make a couple of good points. One of them is a clan boss team really needs to be built for clan boss, and a lot of these champions I use for a lot of different things. So I need to really prioritize the champions that are going to be focused on this being the most valuable element of the game to progress your account.
If I can add on that, I think that's one of the hardest things as an early player. It's like you're pulled in so many different directions. How do I use who for what? Clan boss needs to be the priority because rewards are so good. It's so important. So even if we were going to use Rathalos, let's say we were going to use all 5 of these champions, I would still want to build them for clan boss specifically, even if it does hurt them in other areas of the game. Yep. But if we have the option to be able to build a good clan boss team and not destroy those other squads, that's probably going to be the one I'm going to choose. Which is why I think we want to see what options we have. But you don't want to. You want to build the team in your head and on paper before you actually go and build it, right? And so this is part of the process that I look at when I do it. I go through and I just add champions, look at the overall picture, add more champions, look at the overall picture, maybe substitute somebody out, try to figure out ways to really fully optimize the team as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, I love that. So let's actually get ourselves on over and take a look at some champions that we have. And I know that you've taken a look at my roster already. You have some ideas of champions that we can use. And it seems that only Tyrant is going to be the one most likely that's going to be part of the clan boss team. So we have a lot of others to work with. With that being said, a lot of these champions, mostly epics, are ones that I haven't yet built out. So in putting this team together, what's really going to happen is you're going to give me the champions and the idea that we're going to use with those champions. I'm going to test it as they are right now just to see the damage I can get. And if it's less, which it's most likely going to be because they're unbuilt, I'll run with my built team that I have now until these ones start to catch up and then exceed the capabilities there of the current team.
You're still going to do more damage than you're doing currently, I bet you. Or at least about the same.
With naked champions, really, you're saying?
I think even with some naked champions,
oh my
because
God.
of honestly, bringing Geomancer in, who's going to be a must bring, I think, is going to probably up your damage, probably double your damage of your team.
I love that. Well, what you're saying is my team sucks, man. That's what you're saying. My team is so bad.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you happen to have one of the best clan boss champions in this game, an OP champion in Geomancer. You just haven't put him in yet. Like that's it, right? That's the one thing.
Love it.
Outside of that, I don't know necessarily how much, these changes we're talking about. I think they're going to improve your team, but the degree to which they do is going to really depend on you and how you build them out over time. right? We're not going to see an immediate impact outside of swapping in Geo.
Okay, well, I have one question then before we build the team.
Yeah.
Going to Clan Boss, my current team, who, if I were to take this team right here and just swap in Geo, who would I remove so that I can move forward with this team, because at least it's a geared team off the
Good
bat.
call. Good question. Good question. Good call. You would take out Kale. Would
Kale.
be 100% the one. Kale. Because you need the decrease. So this is one of the things when we start talking about how are we going to build this team. The most important thing that you can bring into a Clan Boss team, unless it's unkillable, the most important thing is bringing decreased attack. You're literally having, well, I don't know if it's exactly having, but you're really lessening the damage that the Clan Boss does. And that's going to really help your survivability. So decreased attack is months to bring in. That means we have to keep Ursula in there, right? Have to keep her in there. And then you can't have a team without some healing. Like if you don't survive, you don't survive. And so having Apothecary is kind of important as well. And so you can't really remove those two. That really only leaves us Rathalos and Kale. And I think my guess is Rathalos out-damages Kale right now. If you find it's the other way around, then we take out Rathalos and leave Kale in. So like really that's what that comes down to.
No, that's valuable, honestly, because if it takes me a few weeks to build this team, at least knowing how I could do a bit more, maybe get some better rewards, just making that quick swap beneficial. And would you put Apothecary in lead just because of the speed?
No, the only thing that's going to matter for putting him in the lead, there's two things that you need to keep in mind. One is stun targeting. The Clan Boss with their third attack does a stun hit. They're going to target, affinity is going to make a big difference. Buffs are going to make a big difference. But outside of that, if everything else is equal, they're going to target that lead champion. So who do you not mind getting stunned in this team? That's who you're going to want to put as the lead. Now, that said, the other thing is Apothecary brings you Bupkis for an aura, right? Don't hear Bupkis very often. I'm bringing it back.
I like the word, man. I appreciate that. So he's not actually bringing an aura.
No, well, because it's only in dungeons that he brings a defense aura, right? Geomancer actually has a great aura. The HP in all battles aura, it's 25%. It's very nice.
Oh, okay.
That's somebody I would probably, yeah. And because he's a damage dealer, even though it's not good to have him miss turns, it's also not going to affect your survivability as badly. It still will, right? Like it's not ideal, but I think of all the options, he's probably the best one to have take stun right there.
Okay. No, that's beneficial. So, I like the breakdown too, just so I can know how to right away have better experience here. But now we're gonna dive into the long-term better experience.
Right. So, but long-term, right? We're still talking those same things, right? We still need healing. We still need decreased attack. Now, one of the reasons why we bring in Tyrant is obviously the ally protection is such a massive thing. For people that don't know, the Clan Boss, the Demon Lord, has a thing called Gathering Fury, where his damage increases over time as he does a base amount of damage, and then it gets multiplied based off the amount of turns that he's taken. And the thing with ally protection against Clan Boss is that Gathering Fury that increases the damage doesn't affect the shared damage from the ally protection. So that means that Tyrant absorbs the amount of damage he absorbs from his allies on turn 1 is the same amount he absorbs on turn 50, even though the Clan Boss is hitting considerably harder. So it's an incredibly powerful tool for keeping your team alive. That's why ally protection is like a must bring for the same team like this. That's why Tyrant's guaranteed to be in here. After that, we're going to also want to make sure we have that decreased attack like we talked about. Ursula is a really good option. She's not a bad option, but I think we have a better one. I think that you have Tayrel on your squad, and I think Tayrel is absolutely like a really, really golden champion for this kind of a role. Real good Clan Boss champion. First off, defensive champion, so you build him to survive, you're also building him to hit hard. Secondly, not only does he have decreased attack, it's on his A1, it's a double hitter, and it's a 50% chance to land for 2 turns, which means it's a very consistent decreased attack. And that is a really hard thing to find, but really, really important. You want that on the Clan Boss pretty much for the full fight. The other thing that Tayrel brings, which is also really nice, is a AoE decreased defense. The AoE part doesn't help us here, but it does definitely help us when we're talking about making sure we get decreased defense on the boss. That is a really, really important debuff to be able to bring. Now, the only negative, it's on a 4-turn cooldown. It's not the greatest thing, right? But still, really, really strong ability. And so those two skills, particularly for Tyrell, really, really nice. A3 hits hard. I would probably disable it for Clan Boss, at least right now. It's not bringing any benefits to you outside of just raw damage. And that difference isn't significant enough for you to utilize it. I'd rather make sure we get the debuffs out there than anything else, right? Surviving is going to be key. So, but what's great about Tyrell is you get decreased defense, you get decreased attack. That's a win-win in my book. So definitely somebody I'd want to bring in.
Okay.
You do have Giscard the Sigiled right down there. I think, yeah.
Giscard.
He also has a decrease.
He was one of my favorite guys in the beginning. I loved him, man. Yeah,
he's nice.
He ate a lot of damage for people too, similar to what Tyrant does, right?
Yes. But you can see he has that decreased attack on the A1, right? The provoke's not going to help us. I think the A3 offers some buffs for our team, if I'm not mistaken.
Increased defense.
That can be really
attack.
useful for your team. Getting an extra increased defense on your team could be really good, right? This is the type of thing where Tayrell's bringing a decreased defense, and we want that on our team. If we go with Rathalos, we don't need that decreased defense. Maybe using Giscard would be a really good alternative option, right? You still get the decreased attack, but now you're also adding some buffs in that increased defense and increased attack buff that can help your survivability. So that might be an option going forward as well. So this is the kind of thing, there's always going to be alternative choices that we can make.
Yeah.
You want to kind of evaluate them and, kind of look at it, and then you can make that choice for yourself. Like, oh, this guy's going to be a better option here, and that guy's going to be a better option here. And so early on, right, we have so few level 6-star champions. You also want to go, if I rank him up, make him 6-star, can I use him in other areas?
Right.
Giscard is one of those champions that's going to be really good in other areas. Tyrell is too, though. An AoE decreased defense is pretty good. You can use them in arena, you can use them in dungeon ways. Pretty solid champion.
Are you talking about them as an either or situation, or they could potentially work? So it's either going to be Tyrell or Giscard.
I would say either or with those two. Yeah. That would be my suggestion.
Well, the good thing is they're both epic champions. I have a bunch of epic books, so I need to make that decision. Not that I can't get more epic books, but be wise with my spend and how I tone them out. Yeah.
But you'll want to look at the whole account. Like, which one's going to benefit you in other areas of the game? I think that's going to have a big impact. Are you using somebody else that has decreased defense? Is going to make a big difference as well.
Okay.
So regardless, let's just go with Tyrell for right now, right? Let's say we're gonna say Tyrell's gonna be our guy. Gets us a decreased attack, which is really valuable. Does bring a decreased defense, which is helpful as well. Now, of course, the only other debuff that we really want to bring in is weaken, right? Obviously, damage over time, stuff like poisons, HP burns is important, but that's kind of separate. So we're talking weaken. Geomancer is the obvious choice there. Geomancer just brings so much to the table, including damage reduction when his HP burns up. Very, very nice champion to have in there. So that's 100% somebody we're going to want to bring in. Now we have all the debuffs we need. We got decreased attack, we got decreased defense, we've got weaken. We also have the buffs we need. Increased defense from Tyrant, ally protection from Tyrant, and that was only 3 champions.
Wow.
The only other thing we really need to worry about now is damage and healing, right? Those are the big things. So you can build an entire team in lifesteal. That's definitely an option, something we used to do back in the day. Then you don't have to worry about healing. Another option would be to bring in a really good healer. Thankfully, you do have one of the best ones in the game in Battle Khazar. Makes for really good healer for your team. Now, another legendary champion, another guy that's not booked right now. So short term, at least until you get him to 6-star, probably not going to be ideal. But if you can get that A2 booked so that it becomes a 3-turn cooldown, he becomes an exceptional champion to bring in for your team.
Okay, so he's going to be a placeholder. We're going to work on him. I actually just got him to 6 stars today, but I need to even, power him up. I need to ascend. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here, as you mentioned. So, but he's going to be the guy for the spot when the time comes.
I think he is. I think he's going to be the guy for you on this one. Absolutely. He brings 2 continuous heals for your whole team. Like, that's a massive thing to bring in. Now, the last slot obviously is your damage dealer spot, right? I mean, Geo's one of your damage spots, and Battle Khazar does bring poisons, which is more damage over time. But we need another damage dealer, and this is where you're gonna have choices to make, right? And early on, the choice is obvious. You go with Rathalos. You try Rathalos, you try Kale, whichever one does more damage for you is the one you keep, right? But that's an obvious choice early on because they're already 6-star, they're already booked, they're already leveled up, they're already geared out, right? Like simple. As you go through though, this is where you want them, like maybe you're gonna make some alternate choices. One of the things you might go is like, I don't know that we're getting enough healing consistently. There's a champion you have on your account, Aox to Remember, that does an amazing job of not only healing your team, but also that's Scathix.
Yeah,
another solid champion. Good option for you. But Aox, right? It brings poisons on the A1, brings some nice debuffs and decreased attack and decreased crit rate on that A3, and on that A2 has some blanket healing going on there, right? So really good champion there.
You know what I'm seeing with this champion?
Could be a good.
I'm seeing.
Yeah, talk to me.
I'm seeing the number of books needed for this boy.
Yes, definitely need some books.
Oh boy,
definitely likes to read. Likes to read.
No,
But you know, if you,
I love seeing that, because me, with a small handful of legendaries, it's really nice to see that there are epics that can fill those spots and built out correctly can potentially get the job done as well. It's nice. It's nice to see that.
Yeah. Well, one of the great things about somebody like Aox is, we were talking about Tayrel, we were talking about Gift Card. Aox also has decreased attack on that A3 ability, right? So this might be, not while I'm talking about maybe using him as another damage dealer, maybe you replace Tayrel with him. And so now not only are you getting the decreased attack, but you're also getting poisons, and that opens up another damage slot, or maybe Rathalos. So now you are getting your decreased defense from Rathalos. You're getting kind of everything you want, right? So I think really long term, that's what you're looking at. But obviously, dude likes to read, right? Kind of an issue.
But he's epic. And I either have to drop books into Tyrell, Giscard, or Aox. So whoever's the better play there, I could book him out decently at least.
Yes, epic. And the other great part about somebody like Aox is he's not really like you can really commit him to clan boss, right?
I agree.
And that's a really good. That's nice to be able to have your team and like I don't have to worry about those champions. The other champion that I would want to point out, even if you don't, regardless of anything else that you do want to look at, is right there to your left, Morag. Morag is a sneaky, strong, the dwarf, the lady with the white hair.
I'm so happy you said that. She's so cute. I just got her the other day. I was happy. I didn't know if she was good or not. So now
Interesting. Cute is never the word I would have used for her. She seems more scary to me,
She's
but
like
you know what?
Like a little Chucky doll, man. I like her.
Yeah. A little Chucky doll. Yeah, that's cute.
I don't know. I'm a satanic mind, maybe.
Hey, we all got our preferences there. But yeah, I think she's really strong. One of the things that she brings, we talked about at the very top of this video, we talked about, the most important thing is more attacks. What does she have? She has an ally attack ability, which is extremely, extremely strong. The other thing that she does is, the ally attacks right there on that A3, right? Very nice. The interesting thing is that A2 ability also brings a really valuable buff for your team in Strengthen, which can really mitigate a lot of damage. It's probably the most, outside of ally protection for clan boss, the most valuable buff you could bring to protect your team. So there is an argument. If you have room for a pure damage dealer, Morag is a really strong option for that as well.
And that would take place of like a Rathalos or a Kale?
Yeah, exactly. That would be in place of a Rathalos. Now, so here's what I would say for you, right? As far as like building your clan boss team, I think long term, your best option is go with Rathalos. Go with, and I would probably say Aox Remember is probably your decreased attack champion that you want to bring in here. Would probably be the best choice, right? So you'd be talking about, we could actually probably plug them in, right?
Yeah,
so I would say long term, what we'd want to do is we would probably want to go with Geomancer for sure, right? Geomancer, Battle Khazar, Rathalos, and we do want Tyrant, but we're gonna probably put him in the last slot, just to make sure he doesn't get targeted from the stun. And then I would say Aox the Rememberer would probably be the next champion we'd want to bring in.
I like that. Is that this guy right here? Is that Aox?
Yep, that's him. Yeah, you got it.
He looks like the other one. He looks similar.
Bullfroggy.
Yeah.
Dude.
Okay.
They do look very similar. And then Tyrant would be like the type of team I would recommend for you. You're going to have a lot of passive damage from Geomancer, from Aox, from Battle Khazar. Rathalos is going to give you the option to put in some raw damage. And then, of course, you're going to have pretty solid protection from Tyrant. It's not going to be... It's not what I would say is necessarily the best team, right, in the world. But I think it works really nicely for your account and the champions that you have available to you. The hard part is going to be the stun. Like, the stun targeting is going to be a little bit rough for you because you don't have any, ideally what happens is Tyrant is ally protecting and increased defensing your team for the AoEs, which means that when on the stun attack, you don't have any real protection there. But even with that, if you can get enough healing from Battle Khazar, if you probably put a, you probably would want to put a lifesteal set on whoever your stun target is. And with Geomancer hopefully mitigating some of that damage, you should still be in pretty good shape as far as like, what you're getting out of it.
I actually built Bad L and we put him in a perception set.
Yeah.
And it's actually all perception sets is what he was put in. Now he wasn't also built out for clan boss either. So it was all for accuracy and speed. You don't like that. You don't like that. It could also obviously be changed.
Oh no, but I think you absolutely chose the right approach, right? When you have support champions like Battle Khazar, accuracy and speed is 100% what you want. I just don't like flat stats, and that flat defense on the chess pieces makes me want to vomit.
Oh, I know. That was a situation of needing speed and accuracy as substats, and I was limited to what we had as what gear was available. That's really what it was.
Yeah. I think you can do better. Personally, I'm just gonna throw that out there for you.
Okay. Cool.
I think you can do better. Yeah, I would go with the main stat because, your accuracy might be a little low right now, but I don't think long term that's really going to be an issue for you. And you should be able to get to. Well, it's hard. I've been running around with on the free to play. I've been running around. I have a Flawed Beast Feeder that has an increased accuracy buff. So nice. So I've been finding that I've been getting away with a lot lower accuracy than you would typically want. But I think I think if you aim even for like 200 accuracy right now with Bad L, you probably should be in pretty good shape.
All right.
But I'd probably rather have an accuracy chess piece in that slot, right? I don't know if you have like one in a speed set, but like that does the job but better then, right? You're getting some kind of benefit out of it, or I don't know, I would really want to find an HP or defensive percentage piece there.
Yeah, I know percentage is definitely much better in the way you want to go. Let you down there, man.
I'm a bit of a gear prude. What can I say?
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I actually built that on stream yesterday with the community, and I got so frustrated on stream trying to put that build together. It just wasn't, the pieces just weren't there, and it was not a good time.
Yeah.
I did have some guidance,
I've been there so many times. Oh man, I feel you. Hey, drop in Geo for Kale and start and see what kind of damage you put out there.
All right, so you want me to? What are we doing? We're putting
straight drop in Geo for Kale.
That's it, and we're just gonna go see what we got there.
That's it.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And am I on the right? I'm not on the right one. I want to go to Nightmare.
Literally no idea.
I'm gonna go to Nightmare. Pull Kale. Put Geo. I was getting between 4 million and 8 million damage. That was probably determined by if Ursula was pulling off a revive or not. That's probably why I'm seeing a huge difference there. But let's see how this goes. You want me to just let it go on auto and see what we get?
Yeah. I mean, that's how you usually run it, right?
I mean, I'm not sitting here hitting clan boss every day, dude. No, I'm not.
Yeah, I was just let it roll.
Let's see what we can do. But yeah, so I'm actually curious with the team that you just built for me. I shouldn't say built, because we just put the initial pieces together. I'm just curious to see how much damage that would do just as is, not doing anything else. I don't think it would do great just because so many champions are, some of them were never even used before, but I'm just curious to see how it would work. Maybe we'll run that after.
It'd be interesting. I mean, part of the idea with that team that I wanted to put together for you is making sure that we do eventually speed tune it. Making sure that you have protection for those AoE hits is super valuable, and that's going to get you basically. If you can do that successfully, you should last at least 20 turns. My imagination is with your team, you're probably lasting about 15 turns or so before you end up dying. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe 20.
I think it depends on that revive.
Yeah.
If it comes in.
So, our ultimate goal is really to survive as long as possible, 30, 40 turns if we can. A lot of that's going to depend on the healing. So champions like Battle Khazars can be really, really valuable and really, really important to that kind of process. Making sure that we keep decreased attack up consistently is also going to be really, really important and really valuable to that process. And those are going to be some real, sticky wicket kind of issues as far as like making sure it all works.
No, I get it. I get
Geomancer does a great job of mitigating damage too with his passive ability. One of the things we can see already is like we are missing some damage. So like, we're only have, the problem with Apothecary is single target heal. When we're in this scenario where we have multiple champions that need some loving.
Yep.
It gets a little dicier, right? And that's where, it's gonna, really.
Ooh.
Yeah. Apothecary goes down.
But we do have a
Ursula
revive.
to bring it back.
She could stay up. We can get a clutch revive. But again, it's a lot of reliance on that revive. If that doesn't come or the timing is off, then there goes the run. She was actually decent right there. And if she can get a heal right here from Apothecary, we'll be all right. But nope, that doesn't happen.
Nope. No, that's problematic. Yep, there went that. Yeah, so this is where it gets a little dicey. This is one of the reasons why I like Battle Khazar over Apothecary, because more general healing as opposed to specific.
All right, I get it. Now, no, not great, but you know what? It's still at least where I was. Should I try the team that you built, even ungeared and everything, or is it just really not worth it?
No. It'll just be worse than that. This is like, let's take out 3 of the 4 of the champions that are geared out and just friggin' 2 guys that do nothing. It's not gonna.
I thought you put superheroes in there for me, man. I thought it was just gonna be instant, 100,000 damage, 100 million damage. I'm sorry.
You got a workman's team now. You got a very, very basic one. I mean, I bet you one of the things you could do is actually bring in Battle Khazar for Apothecary too. That would. It's the Aox part. Like if you keep Ursula in for Aox, you might do better. I don't know how much. I mean, Battle Khazar is really, really unbuilt. It's kind of the issue, right?
But he's 6-star instead of 5, and he's got gear on him. Should I pull this and put this?
Yeah, why not? Try it out.
We'll try it. I got another key. We'll try it out.
I don't think it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, the healing wasn't coming in clutch, put it that way, right? Throughout that last battle.
No, yeah, that definitely was an issue. One of the hard parts with Battle Khazar is like unbooked. That's a 5-turn cooldown, which is like just a long time to get those heals.
Yeah,
that's one of the issues with trying to use him in something like this. But all the same, should work pretty decently, I would imagine.
Again, what we're looking at here, like, there's a little strategy as to why I put the champions in that I put in, but really I was putting in some of my stronger champions with an idea behind them without, like, as in-depth as a look at it as you put when you're putting your teams together. So
early on, you don't have much choice. Like, that's what you got to do. We're just finishing up the free-to-play competition with Hades, right? And basically my first 50, 60 days, I had one of the worst clan boss teams in the competition, because I was just like, I'm just going to use the champions that I have. I'm not going to invest in building a subpar team. I want to make sure I can build a team that will work once I'm going to invest it. Like I said, you put, do it on paper, theory craft it first before you actually, commit the silver and the gear to building it. But of course, now I'm running a 2-key Ultra Nightmare, unkillable, monstrosity of a team because I was able to get there. I got lucky with my polls, but also, once I decided to build the team, once I knew I had the gear to do it, then it was like a full commit. Let's build it. Let's figure out all the best ways to do it. Let's make sure we get our champions, the ones we need booked, the ones we need leveled.
I mean, you are Deadwood Jedi, the king of clan boss, so you have that going in your favor.
I got a reputation uphold, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I felt a little bit like I better do good here. Pressure was a smidge on, but yeah.
All right, so we just had Bad L go down, our healer, but Ursula does have some decent life on her, unless if she gets completely smacked. We could get a revive on. There we go, he's back.
You actually look like you're in a much better shape than you were last time.
Well, we'll see.
Bad Alcazar's real squished though.
Yeah, he's totally squishy.
This is where it's really important to be able to hit some certain benchmarks as far as like your gear, right? You want to make sure you have speed on your champions. You want to make sure you have defense and HP and stuff like that, because there is a minimum, a minimum amount that you need to survive when you're doing this stuff.
But to be honest, this team over the past month I've been using it really doesn't pass 8 million damage. That's like a good day, and we're passing 8 million damage right now, and we just got another clutch revive, which is going to be nice. Although, it's he still hits hard, and I don't know. I'm happy with that change for sure. Bad L, oh man, he does hit hard.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those things, like, it's hard sometimes, even for the clan boss expert, to really predict what the results of things are going to be, right? Like 9 million damage. If this is a top score for you, that's great, and it really shows like, hey, like let's bring in Battle Khazar. Like, having that consistent healing is so much more valuable than the spot healing from Apothecary, as an example. Ursula, 6-star, but clearly does not have War Master or Giant Slayer on. I can tell just by the damage, right? That's going to add another 1 million or 2 million damage to your amount, just FYI. Like, there's definitely some things in here that will boost your numbers pretty significantly. And the fact that Battle Khazar works already, I think that's pretty cool even by itself, right?
Yeah,
and like, oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, he's baby built, and he's still improved the run, so that worked out well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Baby built and still rocking it is pretty good.
Still did all right. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. So we did 2 things today. One, we put together a little bit of a better clan boss team than I had previously, just with existing champions built the existing way. Got me an extra 1 million damage, and will probably be able to help me a little bit more on the rewards in the short time, and built out a team that I could work towards that's going to be really nice for us to kind of build upon over the next few weeks. And I think it's a great idea to have you come back, see my progress on that, where I've actually gotten, and if I need any more guidance at that point in time, I hear you're the man for that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, always, for you, absolutely anything. And yeah, I think that's a really good plan. One of the things is, I find this all the time, even though I've been doing this for years, I find this all the time. People are they still don't fully understand how to build a clan boss team, and having this step-by-step, like this progression thing, I think is really, really valuable. So it'll be interesting to watch how you build it, how you grow it, and then come back and see where can we optimize, where can we fine tune a little bit. There's a lot of big broad strokes we try to hit today, but there's always more details to be sussed out too.
100%. And the cool thing is, as I mentioned, I do have a great community of people that do help me and guide. So I'm assuming a lot of those people are going to watch this video, and they're going to kind of internalize all of the information that you're bringing and give me those reminders as time goes on. Because it's been great. Without people like yourself and without the community guiding me, man, I wouldn't have any clue. If you look back at my first month in Raid, I had no idea what was going on. So compared to now, I'm so much better than I was. Still, obviously, so much to learn.
It's one of the best parts about this game, and also one of the more frustrating parts is there is a learning curve to it. There's a lot of stuff in this game and a lot of stuff to learn. So it's like, I honestly, I'm always learning something new about the game, and I've been playing forever. I forget something and have to relearn it sometimes because there's just so much going on and so many mechanics we have. But that's also the fun part. It's also the fun part of, let's solve this new puzzle a little bit different way, and that's always a treat to be able to do.
No, I completely agree. I've been loving the journey, and again, so much more to learn, only in it for a few months. But I want to, again, let everyone know, deadwoodjedi.com, as well as Deadwood Jedi on YouTube. And also, if you've watched and you've enjoyed this video and the strategy that's potentially inside of the game for you, if you decide to play, links in the description. Download it. It directly supports my channel and gets you a free epic champion, which you will use in the game. And that's it. Again, my friend, I really appreciate your time. This was fun, and I'm holding you to coming back. A couple of weeks, we'll see this face again on the channel.
Absolutely.
All right.
Next time, it won't be as long a video.
I don't mind long.
Well, yeah.
Makes my editor earn his money, man.
Either. Fair enough.
All right. Thanks again, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it valuable. We'll see you back here tomorrow.